Hey guys! Tonight we begin with the crushing silence and the absolute isolation of the medieval outcast. A life lived on the edges, in the shadows, and under the constant, heavy gaze of a society that has legally and spiritually declared you dead while you are still very much breathing. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes, but you don't wake up to the sound of a rooster or the warm, smoky smell of a hearth fire. You wake up to the cold. It's a specific kind of cold. The damp, clinging chill that settles in the low places, the ditches, the forests, and the crumbling stone ruins outside the city walls. You are not in a village. You are not in a castle. You are not even in a peasant's hovel. You are in the space between. Congratulations! You are an outcast. In the Middle Ages, belonging was everything. Your identity was tied to your family, your guild, your parish, and your lord. To be cut off from that web of connection was to be cut off from life itself. But you have been severed. Maybe you contracted leprosy, the disease of the soul, as the church called it. Maybe you committed a crime so heinous that execution was considered too easy and banishment was the preferred cruelty. Or maybe you were just born wrong, into the executioner's family or the gravedigger's line, marked by the profession of death. Whatever the reason, you are now alone. You sit up, pulling a rough, gray wool blanket tight around your shoulders. It's stiff with dirt and dampness, smelling of wet dog and old leaves. The sun is rising over the distant town walls, painting the stone towers in gold. You can see the smoke rising from the chimneys within, the sign of breakfasts being cooked, of warmth, of people waking up together. But you cannot go there. You are legally forbidden to enter the gates. To step foot inside that city without permission isn't just trespassing. It is an act of aggression that could get you stoned, beaten, or killed. You are a ghost who still needs to eat. Your morning routine doesn't involve washing your face in a basin of water brought by a servant or even a family member. It involves checking your body. If you are a leper, you inspect your skin for new sores, checking the numbness in your fingers and toes. You wrap your limbs in bandages, strips of linen that you have washed in a freezing stream and dried on a rock. If you are an outlaw, a wolf's head, as the law calls you, you check the horizon for bounty hunters, for the sheriff's men, for anyone who might recognize you. There is no breakfast waiting for you. No pottage bubbling on a fire. You have to find food. And in the medieval world, if you don't belong to a community, finding food is a full-time job. You might have a small sack of stale bread crusts from yesterday, collected from a charity hospital, or tossed to you by a nervous traveler. You chew on the hard bread, letting it soften in your mouth, tasting the grit of the flour and the mold of the damp air. It isn't nourishment, it's fuel, just enough to keep you moving. You stand up, your joints popping in the cold air. You are wearing a tunic that was once a color, perhaps brown or green, but is now just the color of earth. Over it, you wear a cloak or a hood that covers your face. This is not a fashion statement, it is a requirement. The healthy, the lawful, the belonging, they do not want to see you. They want you to be a shadow, a silhouette that signals, stay away. If you are a leper, you reach for your most important tool. Not a weapon, not a plow, but a clapper. It consists of two wooden boards hinged together. When you shake it, it makes a loud, dry, clacking sound. Click-clack, click-clack. This is your voice now. You are required by law to sound it whenever you walk near a road or a settlement. You must warn the wind that you are coming. You are a walking alarm system for your own existence. Imagine the psychological weight of that. Every step you take must be announced, not to be welcomed, but to be avoided. You see a mother walking with her child down the road. You don't wave, you don't smile, you clack your wood. And you watch as she grabs her child's hand and hurries into the tall grass, pulling her scarf over her face to filter the air you share. You are not a person to her. You are a miasma. You are a walking contagion. You begin your walk. You are heading toward the town gates, but not to enter. You are heading to the spittle, the hospital or leper house built just outside the boundaries. These places were often built at crossroads or near city gates, positioned so that the outcasts could beg from travelers without actually contaminating the town. It is a strange liminal space. The road is muddy, churned up by carts and horses. You walk in the ditch, leaving the dry high road for the clean people. Your shoes, if you have them, are cobbled together from scraps of leather and tied with rope. If you don't, your feet are calloused, cracked, and numb. You don't feel the sharp stones anymore. As you walk, you pass a field where peasants are working. They are bent over, harvesting wheat, sweating, complaining about their backs. To them, their life is hard. They envy the nobles. But you envy them. You envy the exhaustion of honest work. You envy the fact that they can hand a water skin to each other without fear. You envy the fact that tonight they will sleep in a pile of straw next to other warm bodies. They stop working as they hear your clapper. They straighten up, staring at you with a mix of fear and pity. Some make the sign of the cross. Others throw a stone, not to hit you, but to keep you moving. Go on, they shout. Keep walking. You don't respond. You don't look them in the eye. You keep your head down, your hood pulled low, and you keep walking. You are a part of the landscape now, like a dead tree or a storm cloud. You reach the leper house. It's a collection of low wooden huts surrounded by a low wall.
It isn't a prison, exactly, but it isn't a home either. It is a holding pen for the unwanted. Inside there are others like you. People with missing noses, curled fingers, voices raspy from the disease attacking their larynx. But it isn't just lepers. It's the Cagots, a mysterious minority group in France and Spain who were hated for reasons history has forgotten, forced to live apart, enter churches through small side doors, and never touch food in the market. It's the executioners who are forced to live outside the town because their job is considered unclean. It's the heretics who have been branded and cast out. This is your society now, a society of the broken. You take your place near the gate. You have a bowl, usually attached to the end of a long pole. This is so people can drop coins or food into it without getting too close to your hands. You stand there, silent, holding out the pole. Begging in the Middle Ages wasn't just asking for money. It was a transaction. You offered the healthy people a chance to be charitable, to buy their way out of purgatory. They gave you a coin, not because they cared about you, but because they cared about their own souls. You were a spiritual tool for them, a vessel for their piety. They drop a small clipped silver penny into your bowl. "Pray for me," they mutter, covering their nose. You nod. You will pray for them. It's part of the deal. You are closer to God, they think, because you are suffering. In medieval theology, the outcast, the leper, the poor, they were living images of Christ's suffering. It was a paradox. They reviled you physically, but revered you spiritually. They wanted you nowhere near their dinner table, but they needed you to validate their salvation. Hours pass. The sun beats down, or the rain soaks through your cloak. You cannot seek shelter in the town. You must stand there. Your legs ache. Your stomach growls. You watch the carts roll into the city, filled with apples, barrels of wine, bolts of cloth. You see the merchants laughing, the guards checking paperwork. You remember what it was like to be one of them. Maybe you were a baker once. You remember the heat of the oven, the smell of yeast, the feeling of flour on your hands. But then the white patch appeared on your arm. Then the numbness. Then the priest came. The ritual of exclusion, that's a memory that never leaves you. It is the moment your life actually ended. It was a funeral mass, but you were alive. The priest led you into the church. You were made to kneel under a black cloth, the pall used for coffins. The congregation stood behind you, chanting the office of the dead. The priest read the prohibitions, the list of thou shalt nots that would define the rest of your existence. I forbid you to ever enter a church, a monastery, a fair, a mill, a market, or an assembly of people. I forbid you to leave your house without your leper's costume. I forbid you to wash your hands or anything about you in the stream or fountain. I forbid you to touch anything you bargain for. I forbid you to touch children, not even your own. And as the mass ended, the priest took a spadeful of earth and tossed it onto your feet. Be thou dead to the world, but alive again to God. You were walked to the village boundary. Your family watched. Maybe your spouse was crying. Maybe your children looked confused. You weren't allowed to hug them goodbye. You were handed your clapper, your bowl, and your staff, and you walked away. You looked back once, and then you kept walking. That memory plays in your head as you stand by the roadside holding your pole. It is the trauma that underpins every moment of your silence. You are technically dead. Your property was inherited by your heirs. Your spouse was legally allowed to declare you dead and remarry, though the church often frowned on it. You have no rights. You cannot sue in court. You cannot inherit. You exist only by the permission of the healthy. By midday, you have collected a few coins and a heel of hard bread. It is a good day. You retreat from the road to eat. You find a spot under a tree, away from the wind. You sit with a few others. There is a comradeship here, a dark, cynical humor. You trade stories. You warn each other about which towns are cruel, which sheriffs are eager with the whip, which monasteries give the best ale to beggars. You share the bread. You break it with hands that are scarred or missing fingers. There is no revulsion here. In the world of the outcast, the body is just a failing machine, and you are all mechanics of the same broken engine. But it isn't just lepers. You might be sitting next to an outlaw, a man who poached a deer in the king's forest and was declared a wolf's head. That means anyone can kill him on sight without penalty. He lives in the deep woods, sleeping in trees, always listening for the snap of a twig.
You return to the prison tower, or the dungeon. This is your office. It is damp, dark, and smells of old straw and unwashed bodies. The jailer nods to you. He is one of the few people who will speak to you, though even he keeps a respectful distance. You have work to do. Perhaps there is a prisoner to be questioned. Torture in the Middle Ages is not a frenzy of violence. It is a legal procedure, cold and bureaucratic. It is your job to apply just enough pain to extract a confession, but not enough to kill the accused before their trial. It requires a grim knowledge of anatomy, a mechanic's understanding of pulleys and ropes. You do this work with a stone face. You cannot show enjoyment, for that would be monstrous. You cannot show pity, for that would be unprofessional. You must be a machine of the state. After the work is done, you clean your tools. You wash your hands in a bucket of cold water, scrubbing away the fluids of others. You are technically an agent of justice, a servant of the king, yet the priest will hesitate to let you into the church. In some towns, you are forced to stand at the back, separate from the congregation, or listen to the Mass from the porch. You are too close to the boundary between life and death. You are polluted by the souls you have dispatched. But the executioner is not the only healthy outcast living in the shadows. There is another group, far more mysterious, whose exclusion defies all logic. Imagine you are a Cagot. You live in the foothills of the Pyrenees, on the border between France and Spain. You are a carpenter, a skilled woodworker. You are healthy. You are Christian. You speak the same language as the villagers. You have no disease. You have committed no crime. And yet you are treated as if you are a monster. The origins of the Cagots are lost into the mists of time. Some say you are the descendants of Visigoth soldiers, or Saracens, or lepers who were cured but remained scarred. No one remembers. It doesn't matter. What matters is the prejudice that has hardened into law. You live in a separate hamlet, a cluster of huts on the swampy side of the river, away from the main village. You are forbidden to farm the land. You are forbidden to walk barefoot in the town for fear that your touch will poison the earth. You are forbidden to touch the parapet of a bridge with your bare hand. When you go to church on Sunday, you do not enter through the main doors with the clean people. You must squeeze through a tiny low door cut into the side of the church, often so small you have to stoop. It is a weekly humiliation, a physical reminder of your smallness. Inside, you cannot sit with the others. There is a rail separating you, or a dark corner in the back. And the holy water font? You cannot touch it. If you dipped your hand into the communal font, the villagers would believe the water was poisoned. Instead, there is a separate font for you, usually a stone spider or a grotesque face reserved for the accursed race. Think of the psychological weight of that. To be told from birth that your very touch corrupts, that you are spiritually toxic. You are forced to wear a sign, much like the leper or the heretic. Usually it is the shape of a duck's foot, cut from red cloth and sewn onto your shoulder. The duck's foot symbolizes that you are webbed, aquatic, something other than human. Superstitions swirl around you like fog. The villagers whisper that Cagots have no earlobes, that they bleed differently, that they emit a foul heat. One day, you are in the market to buy tools. You are a carpenter, after all. The Cagots were the master woodworkers of the region, ironically building the very churches that excluded them. You accidentally brush against a villager's sleeve. The reaction is instant. The villager recoils, shouting, wiping his arm as if burned. A crowd gathers. You are shouted down, threatened. You have broken the invisible barrier. You retreat to your hamlet, to your people. Within the Cagot community, there is solidarity. You marry among yourselves, you sing your own songs, you tell stories of a time before the hate, though no one can quite remember when that was. You are experts in wood. You build the frames of houses, the naves of cathedrals, the coffins for the dead.
You build the structures of a society that refuses to let you live inside them. It is a baffling, suffocating existence. To be perfectly healthy, perfectly capable, yet categorized as a species apart. As the sun lowers, you sit outside your hut, carving a piece of oak. The wood doesn't judge you. The grain of the timber doesn't care about your lineage or the shape of your ears. In the wood, you find the dignity that the world denies you. But darkness is falling, and with it comes the fear of the night. In the medieval mind, the night is the domain of yet another kind of outcast, the witch, the heretic, the person who has made a pact with the shadows. But you don't have to be a witch to be cast out. You just have to be a woman who doesn't fit. Let's shift your perspective again. You are a widow, or perhaps a spinster. You live on the edge of a village in England. You are not a leper, not an executioner, not a cagot. You are just alone. And in the Middle Ages, a woman without a man, without a father, a husband, or a son to anchor her to the social structure, is a dangerous variable. You have a cat. You have a garden where you grow herbs, sage, rue, mugwort. You know which plants help a fever and which ones ease a birthing pain. You have a skill, a knowledge of the old ways, the practical medicine that keeps the village running when the trained doctors are too expensive or too far away. But this knowledge is a double-edged blade. When the village children get sick and your herbs cure them, you are a wise woman. You are paid in eggs and wool. You are tolerated.
But then the weather turns. The summer is too wet. The harvest rots in the fields. The cow stops giving milk. The miller's son falls ill and dies despite your poultice. The mood in the village shifts. The whispers start. Why does your garden thrive when the wheat fields fail? Why does your cat stare so intently? Why do you mutter to yourself when you are gathering wood? You are not formally banished yet. There is no decree, but you feel the circle closing. You walk to the well to draw water, and the other women stop talking. They turn their backs. You are isolated in a crowd. This is the social death that precedes the physical one. You retreat to your cottage. It is small, thatched, with a dirt floor. It is your sanctuary, but it feels increasingly like a trap. You bar the door at night, not against wolves, but against your neighbors. You hear them passing by, their voices low and angry. They are looking for a reason. They are looking for a scapegoat. The isolation of the outcast is not just about geography. It is about the erosion of trust.
It is the feeling of standing on a sheet of ice that is slowly cracking in every direction. You sit by your small fire, feeding it twigs. You are hungry, but you are afraid to go to the market. You are cold, but you are afraid to gather wood in the forest where you might be accosted. You are a prisoner of suspicion. In the medieval world, community is survival. The village shares the plow. The village shares the harvest work. The village shares the defense against raiders. When you are pushed out of that circle, you are defenseless. You think about the executioner living by the slaughterhouse. You think about the leper shaking his clapper on the road. You think about the cagot entering the church through the little door. And you realize you are all connected by the same thread. You are the necessary monsters. You are the people who define the boundaries of normal by being on the outside of them. The wind howls through the gaps in your wattle and daub walls. It sounds like a voice. You pull your shawl tighter. You are waiting for the knock on the door, waiting for the accusation, waiting for the moment when the silent rejection turns into loud violence. But for tonight, there is only the fire, the cat, and the long, deep silence of the forgotten. You stare into the embers, watching them fade from bright orange to dull gray, mirroring your own fading place in the world. The darkness of the medieval night is absolute. There are no streetlights, no glow from a distant city. Just the heavy, suffocating blackness. And in that blackness, you are entirely, perfectly alone. The fire in your small cottage has died down to ash, and the silence of the village edge is heavy. But let's leave the widow to her anxious vigil. Let's move further out, past the farmlands, past the grazing commons, and into the deep, tangled darkness of the king's forest. Here, the silence is different. It is not the silence of rejection. It is the silence of the predator. You are now an outlaw. In the legal language of the time, you are caput lupinum, a wolf's head. It is a phrase that carries a terrifying weight. It means that, in the eyes of the law, you are no longer a human being. You have been stripped of your rights, your property, and your protection. You are a wild animal. And like a wolf, you can be hunted, killed, and decapitated by anyone who finds you without penalty. In fact, the man who brings your head to the sheriff might even earn a few shillings for his trouble. You wake up shivering, curled into the hollow of an ancient oak tree. The ground is hard, covered in a layer of decaying leaves and pine needles that offer little insulation against the damp earth. You don't have a blanket. You left your home in a hurry. perhaps with the shouts of the bailiff ringing in your ears, perhaps with the blood of a drunken brawl still wet on your tunic. This is not the romantic life of ballads. There are no merry men here. There is no feasting on roasted venison around a roaring campfire while laughing at the sheriff. Fire is dangerous. Fire creates smoke, and smoke draws the eye of the foresters, the king's gamekeepers, who patrol these woods with longbows and a license to kill. So you eat cold. Your breakfast is a handful of berries, sour and gritty, or perhaps a raw root you dug up with your bare hands. If you are lucky, you might have snared a rabbit, but you have to skin it and eat it raw, or risk a very small, smokeless fire deep in a ravine where the trees are thickest. You are always hungry. It is a gnawing, hollow ache that sits in the center of your chest, a constant reminder that you are cut off from the harvest. You stand up and brush the dirt from your clothes. Your tunic is torn, stained with mud and sap. Your hair is matted. You have become part of the undergrowth.
You move through the forest not like a man, but like a ghost. You step carefully, avoiding dry twigs. You stick to the shadows. You listen. The forest in the Middle Ages is not a park. It is a vast, sprawling wilderness, dense and forbidding. It is a place of old magic and real danger. There are boars here, aggressive and deadly. There are wolves, and there are other outlaws, men more desperate than you, men who have lost their minds to the isolation, who would kill you for your boots or the knife at your belt. You spend your day in a state of hypervigilance. You are looking for water, a stream, a spring, but you are afraid to linger there. Water sources are where the hunters wait. You drink quickly, cupping the freezing water in your hands, your eyes scanning the tree line. There is a profound psychological toll to being a wolf's head. You are legally dead, yet you are cursed with the burden of staying alive. You miss the sound of human voices. You miss the church bells. You even miss the drudgery of the field work you once hated. That work had a rhythm. It had a purpose. Here, your only purpose is to breathe for one more hour. You find a ridge and look out over the canopy. In the distance, miles away, you see the spire of a cathedral rising above the trees, stone gray against the pale sky. It looks like a beacon, and you remember that there is one loophole in the law of the land, one place where the king's writ does not run. Sanctuary. If you can reach the church, if you can cross the holy threshold before the sheriff's men catch you, you are safe. The church protects its own. Even a murderer, even a thief, is under God's protection once they touch the holy ground. The decision takes hold of you. You cannot survive another winter in the woods. The frost will take your toes, then your life. You have to run. The journey to the town is a nightmare of exposure. You have to leave the cover of the trees. You have to cross open fields, hedgerows, and roads. Every peasant you see is a potential informant. If they raise the hue and cry, the mandatory shout that compels every able-bodied man to join the chase, you are finished. You wait for dusk. The light turns purple, then gray. You start to move. You keep low, running along the ditch lines, scrambling over stone walls. Your breath tears at your throat. You are weak from hunger, but fear is a potent fuel. You see the town walls ahead. The gates will be closed soon, but the church you are aiming for is a minster, a large church that stands just outside the main walls, or perhaps you are aiming for a parish church in a village. You hear horses behind you, the rhythm of hooves on hard-packed dirt. It might just be a merchant, but you can't take the risk. You sprint. Your lungs burn. The churchyard gate is ahead. You vault over the low stone wall, landing in the soft earth of a grave. You scramble up. The church door is massive, oak bound in iron, and there, hanging from the center, is the sanctuary ring. A heavy iron knocker, often shaped like a lion's head or a grotesque beast. You lunge for it. Your fingers close around the cold, rusted metal. You slam it against the wood. Clang, clang, sanctuary! I claim sanctuary! The door creaks open. A priest stands there, holding a candle. He looks at you, mud-spattered, wild-eyed, smelling of the forest. He doesn't smile, he doesn't offer comfort, but he steps aside. You stumble across the threshold. You collapse onto the flagstones. The air inside is cool and smells of beeswax and incense, a stark contrast to the rot of the woods. You are safe, for now. But sanctuary is not freedom. It is a different kind of cage. You are now a guest of the church, but you are also a prisoner. You cannot leave the church grounds. If you step 1 foot outside the churchyard wall, the sheriff's men, who are likely already gathering outside, can seize you and hang you from the nearest tree. So you live in the church. You are not alone. In the shadows of the nave, behind the pillars, there are others. A woman who poisoned her abusive husband, a merchant who forged a seal, a boy who stole a silver cup. You are a community of the guilty, huddled together under the high vaulted ceiling. Life in sanctuary is a strange limbo. You sleep on the stone floor, perhaps on a pile of straw in the corner of the transept. It is cold, colder than the forest in some ways, because the stone sucks the heat from your bones. You are fed by the parish, simple rations of bread and small beer, but the townspeople resent you. You are a burden. You are a criminal eating their grain.
During the day, the church functions as normal. Mass is held. Villagers come in to pray, to baptize their babies, to marry. They walk past you as if you are part of the furniture, or they glare at you with open hostility. You are a disruption to the sacred space, a stain on the holy floor. You spend your days watching the light move through the stained glass windows. You learn the rhythm of the monk's chants. You have time to think, too much time. The adrenaline of the chase has faded, leaving you with the heavy, dull realization of your situation. You are safe from the noose, but you have a time limit. According to medieval law, you have 40 days. 40 days of safety in the church. After that, the protection expires. The church cannot harbor you forever. You have a choice to make, and it is a choice between two kinds of death. You can surrender to the law and hope for a trial, which almost certainly ends in execution. You can try to escape again, sneaking out at night, but the sheriff's men are watching the perimeter. They have set up a watch, taking turns sitting by the lich gate, playing dice, waiting for you to make a mistake. Or you can choose the third option. You can abjure the realm. This is the ultimate act of the outcast. It is a legal ritual where you confess your crimes to the coroner at the church gate and then swear an oath to leave the country forever. You will be exiled. You will lose your citizenship, your home, your name. You will walk into the sea and never come back. The 40 days are almost up. The priest tells you the coroner is coming. You make your choice. You will not hang. You will walk. The ceremony of abjuration is solemn and humiliating. You stand at the church gate. A crowd has gathered. Villagers, the sheriff's men, the curious. The coroner, a royal official with a scroll and a quill, records your confession. I represent a thief and a felon, you say, repeating the legal formula. I have stolen a sheep, or I have slain a man. Then comes the oath. I abjure the realm of England, and shall hasten me to the port of Dover, which you have assigned me, and shall not go out of the highway, and if I do, I will be taken as a felon and slain. They strip you of your clothes. You are given a simple tunic of rough sackcloth, unbleached and scratching against your skin. You are barefoot. You are handed a wooden cross, painted white, which you must carry in your hand at all times. This cross marks you. It tells everyone you pass on the road, do not touch this man. He is under the king's protection until he leaves, but he is banished. You step onto the road. The crowd parts. You don't look back at the church that sheltered you. You look ahead to the long, dusty road that leads to the sea. The journey to the coast is a final grueling test. You are given a set number of days to reach the port, usually reasonable, but requiring a steady pace. You must stay on the main highway. You cannot cut through the woods or fields. If you are found off the road, you can be legally executed on the spot. You walk. Your bare feet bleed on the sharp stones of the Roman roads. It rains, and the sackcloth clings to you, heavy and cold. People pass you. merchants on horses, pilgrims, farmers. They see the white cross. They see the sackcloth. They know what you are. Some spit. Some cross themselves. Some offer you a crust of bread, not out of kindness, but out of fear of the curse that clings to the damned. You sleep in ditches along the highway, clutching your wooden cross like a shield. You are a ghost passing through the land of the living. You see the smoke of village fires, the warm glow of tavern windows, but they are not for you. You are leaving the world you know. Finally, you smell the salt. The horizon opens up, gray and vast. The sea. You reach the port. It is busy, chaotic, filled with ships and sailors speaking languages you don't understand. You find the port officials. You show them your cross. You are recorded in the logbook. One last entry for a life that is being erased. But there is no ship waiting for you. You have no money for passage. The law says you must wade into the sea up to your knees every day, shouting for a ship to take you, until someone takes pity on you or agrees to let you work your passage. So you stand in the surf. The water is freezing, numbing your battered feet. The waves crash against your legs, soaking your sackcloth tunic. You look out at the endless gray water. Behind you is the land of your birth, the land of your ancestors, the land where you are now dead. Ahead is the unknown. Maybe a ship will take you to France or the Low Countries. Maybe you will find work as a mercenary or a laborer or a beggar in a foreign city where no one knows your crime. Or maybe you will die here on the beach, waiting for a ship that never comes, caught between the earth that rejected you and the sea that doesn't care. You are the ultimate outcast now. You have no king, no country, no kin. You are a speck of dust blowing across the map of medieval Europe. But you are still breathing. You watch a gull arc overhead, crying out against the wind. You grip your wooden cross. You wait for the tide. And while you stand there, shivering in the surf, miles away, back in the heart of the kingdom, another kind of outcast is preparing for a very different kind of isolation. A spiritual isolation so profound, so absolute, that it involves being walled up alive, voluntarily.
Leave the salt spray and the endless gray horizon of the coast behind. Leave the exile shivering in the surf. Let's return inland, to the heart of the village, to the shadow of the stone church where the bell tolls the hours. Here the air is still. It smells of beeswax, old incense, and damp earth. You are about to become a different kind of outcast. You are not being forced out by a sheriff or a disease. You are not running from a crime. You are choosing to leave the world. You are becoming an anchorite. In the medieval mind, this is the ultimate contradiction. You are becoming a voluntary outcast. To save your soul, you must kill your social self. You must become dead to the world while your heart is still beating.
The ceremony is today. It is not a wedding, though you are dressed in white. It is a funeral. Your funeral. The entire village has gathered. The bishop is here, resplendent in his gold-embroidered robes, holding a heavy crozier. The air is thick with the smoke of thuribles swinging back and forth, clouding the nave of the church. You stand at the altar, holding a taper candle that flickers in the drafty hall. You are trembling, not from cold, but from the sheer weight of the moment. You recite the office of the dead. The choir chants the requiem, requiem aeternam dona eis Domine. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord. But they are singing it for you, and you are standing right there, breathing the incense, feeling the stone floor beneath your feet. After the Mass, a procession forms. They lead you out of the church, through the side door, into the churchyard. Attached to the cold northern wall of the church is a small stone structure. It looks like a shed or a tomb. It is the anchor hold. It is roughly 12 feet by 12 feet. Inside, there is a simple wooden altar, a bed of straw or a hard wooden bench, and a small table. And on the floor, open and waiting, is a freshly dug grave. This is where you will sleep, or pray, or simply stare into the earth. It is a reminder you are already in your tomb. You are just waiting for your body to catch up. You step inside. The space is tight. The air is stagnant. You turn around. The bishop stands at the doorway. He sprinkles holy water on the threshold. He says a final prayer, commending your soul to God. And then the mason steps forward. He has a trowel and a bucket of mortar. He has a pile of stones. One by one, he begins to fill the doorway. You watch the light of the afternoon sun shrinking. You see the faces of your family, your neighbors, the people you grew up with, disappearing behind the rising wall of stone. The scrape of the trowel against the rock is the loudest sound in the world. Scrape, tap, scrape. The last stone is fitted into place. The light is gone. You are walled in. You are an anchorite now. You will never leave this room again, not for illness, not for fire, not even in death. When you die, they will simply dig up the floor, put you in the grave you have stared at for 40 years, and seal the floor back up. The darkness wraps around you. You light your single candle. The flame illuminates the rough stone walls, the damp seeping through the mortar. You are alone, yet you are in the center of everything. An anchor hold is a paradox of isolation. You are physically cut off, but spiritually you are the village's lightning rod. You are there to absorb their sins, to pray for their souls, to suffer so they don't have to. You have 3 windows. They are your only connection to the universe. The first window opens into the church. It is called the squint.
It is a narrow slit angled toward the high altar. Through it, you can see the priest raising the host during Mass. You can smell the incense. You can hear the chanting. You can receive communion through this slit, a wafer passed to you by a hand you will never hold. This window is your lifeline to God. The second window opens into a small servant's room. You are dead to the world, but you still need to eat. A servant, usually an older woman paid by the parish, will bring you food, pottage, bread, ale, and take away your waste bucket. You pass these things through a small hatch. You never see her face clearly, just her hands. She is your lifeline to survival. The third window opens to the outside world. It faces the churchyard or the village square, and this window is your job. Even though you are an outcast, dead to society, society cannot leave you alone. They come to your window. They whisper to you. "Lady," a voice says from the darkness, "my child is sick. Pray for him." "Sister," a man whispers, "I have sinned. I stole from my master. What should I do?" "Mother," a young girl asks, "I am afraid of marriage. Tell me how to be brave." You are the village's counselor, its therapist, its oracle. Because you have left the world, they believe you see it more clearly. They believe your prayers are more potent because they are forged in the kiln of this tiny, cold room. You are the holy prisoner. But the reality of the cell is not just spiritual ecstasy. It is physical endurance.
Winter comes. The stone walls turn to ice. You have no fire. You wrap yourself in your wool habit, shivering on your hard bed. The grave in the floor seems to exhale cold air. Your fingers grow stiff. The water in your cup freezes. You pray not just for salvation, but for warmth. Summer comes. The cell becomes an oven. The air is heavy and stifling. The smell of the nearby graveyard drifts in through your window, sweet and cloying. Flies buzz in the stagnant air. You cannot bathe. You cannot walk in the meadow. You pace the 3 steps across your cell, back and forth, until you have worn a groove in the stone floor. And then there is the silence. When the village sleeps, when the owls hunt, the silence of the anchor hold is absolute. It presses against your ears. In the dark, your mind begins to wander. This is the danger the bishops warned about. Acedia, the noonday demon, the spiritual listlessness that turns into madness. You start to hear things. Is that the devil scratching at the mortar? Is that the voice of Christ, or just the wind in the eaves? You see shapes in the shadows. You remember the life you left behind, the taste of roast meat, the feeling of wind on your face, the touch of another human being. The temptation to despair is overwhelming. You stare at the grave in the floor. It waits for you with infinite patience. You pick up your needlework. Anchorites were often expected to weave or embroider to keep their hands busy. You stitch complex patterns into altar cloths by the light of a single tallow candle. The repetition is soothing. In, out, in, out. It is a way to mark time in a place where time has stopped. You have a cat. Many anchorites were allowed a cat. It is your only companion. It hunts the mice that scuttle through your food scraps. It curls up on your lap, a small warm weight that anchors you to the living world. You stroke its fur, and the purring sound is the most comforting thing you have ever heard. It is a creature that does not know about sin or salvation. It just lives. And watching it, you remember how to live too. Years pass. Your hair turns gray under your veil. Your joints stiffen from the damp. You become a fixture of the village, like the old oak tree or the church tower. Children who were born after you were walled in come to your window. To them you have always been there. You are the voice in the wall. You are a legend. But you are also a human being slowly decaying in a stone box. You rely on the charity of the parish. Sometimes, if the harvest is bad, the food that comes through the servant's hatch is meager. A crust of moldy bread, a cup of watered-down ale. You eat it without complaint. To complain would be to fail your vocation. You are supposed to be above hunger. Sometimes the bishop visits. He stands outside your window and quizzes you. Are you keeping your vows? Are you gossiping with the villagers? Are you falling into heresy? He checks the seal on your door to make sure the stones haven't been moved. He treats you with reverence, but also with suspicion. A woman alone with God is a powerful, unpredictable thing. There are stories of anchorites who went mad, who screamed and clawed at the walls until their fingernails broke, who begged to be let out. But the wall never opens. Once the rite is performed, it is binding. To break out is excommunication. It is to become an apostate, a soul lost to hell. So you stay. You endure. You listen to the rhythm of the seasons outside your window. You hear the harvest songs in autumn, the Christmas carols in winter, the Easter bells in spring. You live vicariously through the sounds of the village. You know who is marrying who is feuding, who has died. You are the keeper of the village's secrets. One night you feel a pain in your chest. It is sharp and cold. You lie down on your bed. The candle has burned low. The cat jumps up and settles on your feet. You look at the squint, the narrow window into the church. The sanctuary lamp is glowing red in the distance, a tiny star in the darkness of the nave. You realize this is it. The end of the long wait. There will be no family at your bedside, no one to hold your hand. You will die alone in the dark behind a wall of stone. But strangely, you are not afraid. You have been practicing for this moment for decades.
You have lived in your tomb. You have stared at your grave every morning. You are not leaving life. You left life years ago. You are simply finishing the transition. You close your eyes. The stone walls seem to dissolve. The cold dampness fades. You are just a voice, a prayer, a memory sealed in rock. Morning comes. The servant knocks on the hatch with your breakfast. There is no answer. She knocks again. Silence. She runs to the priest. They break open the wall, the only time the stones are ever removed. They find you lying there, peaceful, cold. The cat is waiting by the door. They lift you up and lower you into the grave in the floor. They say the prayers, and then they seal the floor back up. The cell is empty now, waiting for the next soul who wants to disappear.
You were an outcast by choice, a holy exile. But not all outcasts chose their fate. Some were cast out not by law, not by disease, and not by faith, but by the twisting, breaking power of their own minds. Let's move from the silence of the anchor hold to the noise of the streets, to the chaotic, misunderstood, and often brutal world of the village idiot, the madman, the possessed. You wake up, but you don't know where you are. The ground is moving. No, the ground is still. Your head is spinning. You are lying in a pile of hay in a barn you don't recognize. Your clothes are mismatched, a tunic that is too big, hose that are torn. You have straw in your hair. You sit up and laugh, a sudden barking sound that startles the horses. You are the natural, the fool, the madman. In the medieval world, mental illness is a labyrinth of superstition. Are you touched by God or possessed by the devil? Are you a wholly innocent, incapable of sin, or a vessel of chaos to be whipped and chained? The answer depends on the day, on the town, and on how loud you scream. You walk out of the barn into the sunlight. The world is too bright. The colors are too loud. You see patterns in the clouds that no one else sees. Dragons, armies, the face of God. You point at them and shout, "Look, the sky is bleeding!" A group of children is playing near the well. They see you and stop. They don't run away like they did from the leper. They run toward you. They throw dirt. They mock your gait. "Fool! Fool!" they chant. You are the village entertainment. You are the mascot of disorder. In some towns, you are tolerated. The Lord might give you a place by the fire in the great hall, feeding you scraps from the high table like a favorite hound. You are expected to tumble, to make lewd jokes, to speak the truth in riddles that the sane are too afraid to say. This is the role of the jester, the professional fool. But you are not a professional. You are just broken. You wander through the market. A merchant hands you a rotten apple. You eat it, core and all, juice running down your chin. You are hungry, always hungry. You have no concept of money. You see a shiny ribbon on a stall, and you take it because it is beautiful. "Thief!" the merchant shouts. He strikes you with a stick. You don't understand why he is angry. You cry, loud, sobbing wails like a toddler. The crowd laughs. To them, your pain is a performance. But sometimes the mood shifts. If the harvest fails, if the plague comes, if the milk sours, the laughter stops. The village looks for a cause, and they look at you. You who talk to unseen things, you who dance in the graveyard. They say you are possessed. The priest comes. He doesn't bring bread. He brings holy water and chains. You are dragged to the church porch. They bind your hands. They splash water on your face, chanting in Latin commands to demons you cannot see. It terrifies you. You struggle. You bite. See, they say, the demon fights back. They might lock you in the church tower or in a cage in the town square. They leave you there to cool the blood. Passers-by poke you with sticks. They spit on you to ward off the evil eye. You are no longer a person. You are a vessel of spiritual pollution. Or perhaps they decide on a medical cure. The medieval understanding of the brain is a mix of humors and astrology. They might say, you have a stone of madness in your head. The barber surgeon arrives. He cuts your scalp. He pretends to pull out a small stone, showing it to the crowd. Behold, he says, the madness is gone. You bleed, your head throbs, but the voices don't stop. The dragons in the clouds are still there. You are cast out of the village. You wander the roads, a bedlam beggar, named after the famous hospital of St. Mary of Bethlehem in London, though you have never been there. You wear a badge of tin, authorized to beg, but really authorized to be ignored. You sleep in hedgerows, you eat beetles, you howl at the moon because it looks like a skull. The loneliness of the madman is different from the loneliness of the leper. The leper is shunned because of his body. You are shunned because of your mind. You cannot connect. You cannot explain. You are trapped inside a reality that no one else can perceive. You meet other travelers on the road, pilgrims, soldiers. They cross to the other side. They fear your unpredictability. They fear that madness is catchy, like a yawn or a fever. One night, a storm rolls in. Thunder shakes the ground. To you, it is the sound of giants walking. You hide under a bridge, clutching your knees, rocking back and forth. You hum a lullaby your mother used to sing, a fragment of memory from a time before the fog descended.
You are the outcast who cannot even find sanctuary in your own thoughts. You are the exile of the soul. But even in your confusion, you notice something. You notice the way the lightning illuminates the world in stark, brief flashes. You see the beauty of the wet leaves. You feel the cold rain as a baptism. You are closer to the raw, chaotic heart of nature than the sane people in their warm houses will ever be. You survive on instinct. You survive on the charity of those who believe that touching a madman brings luck. You survive because the human spirit, even when fractured, is stubborn. The storm passes, the sun rises. You climb out from under the bridge. You see a flower growing in the mud. You pick it. You put it in your hair. You smile. And you start walking again down the long, winding road to nowhere, laughing at a joke that only you can hear. The road has been long. We have walked the muddy paths with the leper, hidden in the deep woods with the outlaw, sat in the stone silence of the anchor hold, and wandered the chaotic streets with the madman. We have seen how the medieval world built walls, not just of stone, but of fear, law, and superstition, to keep the unwanted out. But every journey ends. For the outcast, the end is not a grand funeral procession with weeping mourners and bells tolling from the cathedral tower. It is not a marble effigy or a chantry chapel where priests are paid to sing for your soul forever. The end is quiet. The end is the earth. Tonight, we walk one last time. We walk to the places where the forgotten go when they are finally done with surviving. We walk to the potter's field, to the crossroads, to the unconsecrated ground. You are tired. The struggle of the day, the begging, the hiding, the enduring is over. The sun has set completely now. The medieval world is plunged into a darkness so deep it feels like velvet. There is no moon tonight, just the vast, indifferent scattering of stars.
You are standing at the edge of the town, looking out over a piece of land that looks like nothing. It is a patch of scrubby grass, perhaps near a riverbank that floods in winter, or a rocky hillside where the plow cannot go. This is the burial ground of the outcast. If you were a leper, you might be buried near the Spittle, the leper hospital. There is a strange dignity here. You are buried by your own kind. The graves are simple, unmarked mounds of earth. There are no headstones, just perhaps a wooden cross tied together with twine, which will rot away in a few seasons. But you are together. In the leper cemeteries excavated by archaeologists centuries later, we find skeletons lying side by side, careful and respectful. We see the ravages of the disease on the bones, the eroded fingers, the damaged skulls, but we also see care. We see bodies laid out with their hands crossed over their chests, facing east, waiting for the resurrection. Even in death, the community of the broken held on to each other. But if you were an executed criminal, the end is starker. You were hanged at the gibbet, at the edge of the town. Your body was left there for days, a warning to others. But eventually the law is satisfied. You are cut down. You are not taken to the churchyard. The holy ground is forbidden to those who died in sin, to those who broke the king's peace. You are taken to a ditch or a pit dug near the gallows. You are thrown in, sometimes face down. This is a final act of shunning. The medieval mind believed that burying a body face down prevented the soul from rising, or perhaps it was simply a way to turn your back on the world that turned its back on you. Sometimes you are buried with heavy stones placed on your back or your chest. To the modern eye, this looks brutal. But in the medieval mind, it is an act of fear. They are afraid you will come back. They fear the revenant, the restless dead who wander because they were not shriven, not blessed, not welcomed into the next life. The stones are there to pin you to the earth, to keep your anger in the ground. It is a burial of fear. But it is also a burial of acknowledgement. They feared your power even in death. You were too wild for the consecrated earth. Let's move to the crossroads. In the folklore of the Middle Ages, the crossroads is a place of magic, of danger, and of limbo. It is neither this road nor that road. It is the space between. And this is where they bury the suicides. To take one's own life was considered a crime against God and the crown. It was a theft of a soul that belonged to the king. If you were a woman who walked into the river because the hunger was too much, or a man who used his own knife because the shame of debt was too heavy, you could not lie with your ancestors. So they bring you here, to the junction of two highways, usually at night. The burial party is small, silent, ashamed. They dig a hole in the hard-packed dirt of the road. They place you there, and often they drive a wooden stake through the grave. It sounds horrific, like the stuff of vampire legends,
but the intent is grounded in the sad, desperate logic of the time. They believe your spirit is confused. By burying you at a crossroads, they hope that when your ghost rises, it will not know which path to take to return to the village. It will stand there, hesitating, until it fades away. The stake is to ground you, to connect you to the earth, to stop you from wandering.
It is a lonely resting place. Travelers will walk over you for centuries, their carts rumbling over your bones, unaware that a life lies beneath the wheels. You become part of the road. You become the foundation of the journeys of others. But there is a peace in this too. You are no longer trapped in the village that judged you. You are part of the movement of the world. You are watching the horizon in all directions. And what of the stranger? The unknown traveler who died in a barn, nameless and penniless. The pilgrim who succumbed to fever miles from home. You are taken to the potter's field. This is a biblical reference. The field bought with the 30 pieces of silver returned by Judas, used to bury strangers. Every medieval city has one. It is a plot of land that no one wants. Here you are buried quickly, wrapped in a shroud if there is money for cloth, or just in your own worn tunic if there isn't. There is no service. The priest might say a quick prayer over the open earth, but there is no mass. You lie among the thousands of others who slipped through the cracks of history. The beggars, the wanderers, the children who had no parents to claim them. It is a democracy of dust. In the potter's field, the hierarchy of the feudal world finally dissolves. There are no lords here, no masters, no guilds, no outcasts, just the earth reclaiming its own. As the centuries pass, the wooden crosses rot. The mounds flatten. The grass grows over the scars in the land. The location of the field is forgotten. A market might be built over it, or a parking lot, or a park. But you are still there. In the quiet of the earth, the outcast finally finds what they were denied in life: belonging. You belong to the soil. You belong to the roots of the trees. You belong to the deep, slow time of geology. Let's step back now. Let's pull back from the grave and look at the medieval world one last time. It is a world of immense beauty, of soaring cathedrals, illuminated manuscripts, and chivalric romance. But that beauty was built on a foundation of exclusion. The walls of the castle were strong because they kept people out. The unity of the church was absolute because it cast people aside. The outcast was the shadow that defined the light. Without the leper, there is no concept of the clean. Without the outlaw, there is no concept of the law. Without the madman, there is no definition of reason. You, the outcast, bore the weight of society's fears. You carried their sins into the wilderness like the scapegoat of old.
You allowed them to feel safe, to feel righteous, to feel normal, simply by being the opposite. And you survived. That is the most horrifying and beautiful truth of all. Despite the cold, despite the hunger, despite the laws that said you were dead, you lived. You found ways to eat. You found places to sleep. You found moments of connection, a shared fire in the woods, a nod from a fellow beggar, the purring of a cat in an anchor hold. You proved that the human spirit is harder to kill than the human body. Now, imagine the snow beginning to fall. It starts as a few stray flakes drifting down from the black sky. It settles on the thatched roof of the leper house. It dusts the trees of the outlaw's forest. It covers the stone roof of the anchorite's cell. It whitens the crossroads where the suicide lies. The snow covers everything. It erases the boundaries. It fills the ditches. It smooths the rough edges of the world. Under the blanket of snow, the castle and the hovel look the same. The road and the field look the same. The grave of the king and the grave of the outcast look the same. The cold is no longer biting. It is numbing, slowing everything down. The world is going to sleep. The sounds of the medieval age fade away. The clatter of the market, the ring of the blacksmith's hammer, the chant of the monks, the click-clack of the leper's clapper. They are all swallowed by the silence of the falling snow. You are safe now. You are warm in your bed, far away from the mud and the stone. You are not an outcast. You are here in the present, surrounded by comfort. But as you drift toward sleep, spare a thought for them, for the shadows in the margins of history books, for the people whose names were never written down, for the ghosts who walked the roads alone so that the village could sleep soundly. They are not gone. They are the silence between the notes of history. They are the space between the stars. They are the quiet resilience that runs through the human bloodline. The snow continues to fall, steady and soft. The fire in the hearth has turned to glowing embers, pulsing gently like a slow heartbeat. The wind has died down. The forest is still. The city is silent. The long, hard journey is over. The burden of being forgotten is lifted, because tonight we remembered. Rest now. The gates are open. The walls are down. The road is clear. Good night.